Hello, friends. Are you ready to hear the rest of the tale? Then let us commence. Let's check back with Meenko, yeah? Remember? He's way back in the Resistance headquarters in the sewers below once was. The city we now know once was the shining capital of Slanhain, Dinas Emerald. Meenko had been learning, from the hag, Auntie Olia, how to exert an influence on the prime material plane instead of just floating through everything like a, and I hate to use this word, ghost. She had him practice this by pouring water from one ceramic jug into another, rinse, repeat. And it was going well. Repetitive disciplinary learning, I mean, that's pretty old hat for a monk, innit? No problem. Banderman interrupted the monk's boring for everyone but Meenko lesson to let him know that the Big Three wanted to see them. The Big Three being the three leaders of the Resistance, Ferrin, Gruff the Green Man, and Marina. Banderman took Meenko to the leaders, who happened to be meeting on the roof of a burnt-out building with a wide view of the ruined city and beyond. After brief pleasantries, Ferrin handed Meenko a looking glass and directed his attention to the far west of Murkurhain. Through the instrument, Meenko could see over the rest of the vast ruined city, and then over a large body of water he hadn't known was there, and then, further still, across the sea to a large wall of mist and fog rising into the skies. Ferrin told Meenko that these mists were rising out of Coldmire, and they seemed to indicate that the place was, well, thawing, and thawing on a grand scale. Meenko immediately knew why, of course. It could only be his friends who had caused this. They must have found a way to best whatever enemies held control over the frozen land and reversed the curse there. He said as much to the leaders. It turns out the Big Three had assumed as much as well, and they had asked Meenko up to the roof with the idea that he should reach out to the Ragtags and start to align their goals with the goals of the Resistance. Meenko warily agreed, and Banderman then showed him back into the sewers, where they soon met with someone named Vilena, a young strange fey seer who would be a go-between for Meenko and the Ragtags. Meenko sent a message, through Vilena, bringing everyone up to speed on his situation and asking how they were doing. Faris responded that they had defeated Hiverneon in Coldmire and were now in the swamps figuring out what to do next. Most importantly, they had learned of something called the Glimmer, a strange and powerful legendary artifact that had belonged to Gwyn Wynn, and that they were probably going to try and find it. With the mention of the Glimmer, Vilena changed her demeanour completely and told Banderman and Meenko to stay put and wait while she spoke with the leaders. And, well, that seemed to take a long time, so let's check in with everyone else, shall we? After making their way to the Drungamyr Swamps, the Ragtags discovered a ruined Fey tower, below which, after removing the gargoyles, oozes and trolls that had taken up residence there, they found a small series of caves. Turns out, this series of caves had been used by the Bardo Regan O'Dale as a hideout at some point in the past. You know, before there were disgusting trolls using it as their home/terrifying food hall. With some new clues, the main one being about the Glimmer, they were wondering what to do next. Should they pursue the Glimmer? Should they reach out to the strange and potentially dangerous Morgilla the Black Swan? Should they just head to Once Was and collect Meenko, maybe using a boat or ship? Instead, they decided that they should take a long rest in the relatively safe confines of the caves first, then decide in the morning. Even though it was a bit damp in the troll cave, it wasn't so bad in there compared to a night in an endless, dark, potentially haunted and gloomy swamp. Answers seemed miserable, and a little ticked off for some reason, though. No idea why that might be, really. Maybe we'll find out later. Pfft, tabaxi, eh? That night, while on watch, Braze noticed a troubled Divrina staring into the fire. When he asked her what was wrong, she mentioned that she was feeling guilty for leaving Nimnillion back in Sylvania while she tripped around saving the world here in Murkurhain. If you remember, Divrina was the Archfey Spiritor's assistant. She mentioned that Nimnillion was a bit of an idiot, but that he meant well. And, like the rest of the Spiritors, had been duped by Valrillin into whatever it was that was going on. Not the biggest fan of Nimnillion, Brace assured Devrina that the course she was on was the right one, and that should be a comfort to her. And that Nimnilian would not only be fine, but that he would understand her choice. It seemed the Dragonborn's sage advice was a comfort, and the fawn was soon asleep. The next morning, the companions left the caves and the ruined tower and headed into the Drungamyr Swamps in a southeasterly direction. It was a terribly cold day, and many in the group suffered some effects of the weather. Ominous shapes flew through the sky at a distance, and no one was sure if they had seen them or not. Also, they found a set of tracks heading off to the east toward Torneath, Morgilla's keep, that were definitely Answer's brother Jules, and they were less than a week old, so they hadn't lost much, if any, ground in tracking him. Still, outside of Answers and Devrina, no one seemed that interested in pursuing Jewel anymore. Guess the glimmer was the new shiny thing, eh? After getting lost but then writing things and carrying on, the heroes found another of the bard's scroll cases. This one had a journal entry and a poem. In the letter, the bard wrote,
"Today finds me at a crossroads, grappling with a dilemma that weighs heavily upon my heart and mind. The shadows of uncertainty cast their long tendrils over my thoughts as I consider my next course of action. I've been entertaining the notion of seeking out Morgilla in her murky swamp keep, Torneath. The prospect both intrigues and unsettles me in equal measure. Can I trust her? That is the question that haunts me as I ponder the unknown. Morgilla, once a sister to the Spider Queen, now veiled in a shroud of enigma and doubt. Her allegiance, her intentions, everything remains obscured by the fog of war and deception. Is she a willing ally, or merely a puppet dancing to Valrillin's tune? As I contemplate this perilous endeavour, I find myself confronted with another quandary, the need for discretion. If I am to venture into the heart of the swamp and confront Morgilla, I must do so under the guise of anonymity. The art of disguise has long been my ally, allowing me to navigate treacherous waters unseen and undetected. And with this yet, there is a truth that lingers beneath the surface, a secret that I guard with utmost caution. And so, I must tread carefully, concealing my true identity even as I seek answers amidst the tangled vines and murky waters of Torneath. The path ahead is fraught with peril, but I am resolved to uncover the truth, whatever the cost may be. Yours in uncertainty, the Bard.
Meanwhile, the poem shed light on what happened to Gwyn Wynne's unhatched eggs. It turns out that when the young Valrillin discovered that he could potentially have a bunch of brothers and sisters running around taking up his mother's attention, well, he got insanely jealous. Confiding in his Aunt Morgilla, Valrillin admitted that he wanted to be rid of them before they hatched. Morgilla, jealous of Gwyn Wynne's brood of joy, said she would take the eggs off of Valrillin's hands and, when and if they hatched, raise them as her own. And, in the meantime, they would tell the Spider Queen that the giants had stolen them. And, well, you know what happened after that, right? With this, the heroes were now resolved to track down the Glimmer by exploring the relatively nearby stone shores, and then, if there was no sign of the artifact there, they would head to In Whale, the haunted wood where it also might be. Or were they going to find a ship somewhere and cross the sleeping sea to get to Meenko in once was? I sort of got confused at that point, to be honest. While the discussion was going on right in the middle of a deadly swamp, Answers and Devrina made it abundantly clear that they were not going to be a part of any action that wasn't about or included finding Jewel. After all, wasn't that the deal that started all of this? The Ragtags would help find Jewel, and then Answers would take them to Darkon to learn more about what happened to them. I guess it's easy to forget important things when new important things keep popping up. It's like when a child in a sandbox keeps digging up new toys and forgets the old ones with each unearthing. But then unearths the old ones as if they're new again. Answers also was curious why they were even bothering to save Murkur, Hain or Sylvania at all. Was it really their job to do that? Well, that's a pretty heavy question, isn't it? I mean, just because you have a sword and map, does that make you a hero? And, just because you wake up in a stasis tank without any memories, do you really need to find out why that happened, or should you just, maybe thank the gods you woke up at all? Tough, rough stuff, eh? Despite all the existential angst, the Ragtags agreed that helping answers was what brought them here, and following Jules' tracks was clearly how to continue that. So head east they did. A few hours on, Varys found new tracks, but these ones didn't belong to Jewel. With his keen eyes, the cleric discerned that the tracks belonged to a Tortle and a Harengon, and yup, these were tracks belonging to Frobisher and Sloane, the two Sealy Fae agents everyone met back in Sylvania. They seemed to also be heading east towards Tornaith and were only a couple of days ahead. Buoyed on the Ragtags pushed further into the swamps. Suddenly, two giant tentacles shot out of the water, grabbing and grappling Devrina and Answers, and soon everyone could see that the tentacles belonged to a huge, monstrous frog hemoth. Hey, I don't name these things, okay? Despite an initially scary battle where Answers and Devrina were swallowed, the heroes managed to fight back hard and almost slay the crazed beast. Suddenly it began levitating out of the marshes and was run through with several harpoons before being blasted with a ray that disintegrated half its body. As the Ragtags looked on, mouths agape, 7 large, steel-winged, black-armoured Fae descended to the ground, encircling them. Then, descending out of the mists and lighting to the ground, came an Archfey, beautiful and terrible, shrouded in black swan feathers, who said,
"Now, strange ones, you will tell me what fell purpose has you trespassing in my swamps."
"Oh, that's Morgilla, right?" "Oh, right. That's Morgilla. Wonderful.